So we've been getting a lot of requests and ideas for episodes, and I would love to do them. But before we could do that, I want to talk about a way comics can get published that some people don't really think about, or it has a bad rap. When it comes to publishing comics, webcomics seem to be swept under the rug when people want to publish their comics. But why is this? Is it a bad thing? When publishing a comic online, there are so many opportunities that can help with publishing with major corporations. There are even websites that you could publish your comic on, and they will pay you if it gets popular. And I'll talk a little more about this later. So how does webcomics help those who want to create them? Well, let's take a look at two different people that want to have a certain publishing company sell their comic. Person A published a different comic online and has a fandom already built up, and they're craving for more from this person. But person B is just pitching the idea and has nothing behind them to support that they can deliver on being marketable. Do you see the difference? Publishers love it if you've been published in any sense, and they love it even more when you already have a fan base supporting you. No, I'm not saying that person B can't get published because, they don't have a fan base behind them, but they're going to have a harder time doing this. And I might talk about the different ways of getting published in another video, but that's a topic for later. So, webcomics can show publishers what your comics are able to do. But what else can they do? In the last few videos, I keep bringing up a webcomic website called Webtoons. As far as I have seen, Webtoons is probably one of the best websites to publish a webcomic anywhere in the world. If you're from America to Korea to Japan to Mexico, they publish it all. And they even have fans who translate these comics for the people, so they have even more range across the globe to have this comic being released. If you publish your comic on Webtoons and you get enough readers following Webtoons, they will make you a featured artist and pay you to have your comic on the site. Of course, most of this money will be generated through ads and how many people, go on the website, but I mean, still, it's money. And this may not be a whole lot at first, but you could save your money up and sell physical copies of your comic that the fans will want to buy. For this example, I'm going to talk about Newman by Josh Ulrich. Before he finished the first major arc in his comic, Josh created a page on Kickstarter to get his comic published. When he got enough money, he took it all to a publishing company, and they made physical copies, which he then later gave to the people who donated and sold to those who wanted a copy themselves. Now you may think, why did he do this when the entire comic's online? Well, it's actually very simple when you're a fan of something. Wouldn't you want to have a copy of your own to have? A copy that when there's a storm outside and you're under your blanket fort and the power's cut off, you're just sitting there with a flashlight reading your favorite comic. Another benefit to webcomics is using it for a trial run. Say you have an idea for a comic, but you don't really feel like it's good enough to be published by a company. If you publish it online, you can see what your audience says and use their advice to work out the bugs that you have in your comic. I'll use an example on one of my own webcomics because I created it in this sense. In Nerddom, I wanted to have a simplified, cartoony, basic colors style. So I based the style off of Scott Pilgrim, and I used basic colors with no shading to create the comic. Down the road, I played around with different tools I had in Manga Studio and used them to create cool effects. But it was also a trial for my writing ability as a graphic author. I needed to work on my skill in writing, so I felt like Nerddom was a good trial basis for this. Now, I may come back to that project and work on it some more, but only time will tell. And I'm sorry to say this, but this week's episode is going to have to be cut short, shorter than the usual episodes. So catch us next week where we'll be talking about Deadpool in the anticipation for the Deadpool movie release. We'll be looking at his backstory, how he's Marvel's toy, and how everybody loves him and how he has such a big fan base. So that's it for this week's episode. Catch you guys next week.